Alright, and welcome back to Rimworld. I have been excited to get back to this one. Last time we left off, we had just survived a raid, and we did really, really well. So I'm hoping that we can keep that going. We do have a couple of people that are injured. We did lose a wind turbine. Well, I mean, worse things have happened. Still, I have a feeling we're going to bounce back from this no problem. Today, first off, we got to get this cleaned up. We need to get these bodies out of here before people go crazy, and they will. We're still working on getting bedrooms done. We're still taking care of a few muffalo, because that's a thing that we did. And in terms of goals, we really need to get some batteries. And that's going to require some research. So for the time being, let's see what happens. Let's get time going again, and we need to set these things, or these people, to go somewhere. And we don't have a place to put them yet. So let's take care of that first off. Now, two ways to deal with bodies. You can make a crematorium, and that just lets you incinerate them and it's done and over with. But that's going to require power and construction time that we don't really have right now. So instead, we're just going to make a spot over here to dump them for now. There is a debuff that the colonists will get if they happen to walk past this area, but in putting it over here, we got a couple of bonuses. Number one, it's out of the way, so we don't have to worry about going by them too much. And secondly, everything left outside deteriorates. And there's different factors that will change that. If you just leave it outside, it'll deteriorate at a certain rate. If it's unroofed, it'll deteriorate faster. If it's in the water, it'll deteriorate faster. And if that water is running, faster still. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this spot for corpses. I'm going to put animal corpses over here too, because anything that rots, we can't do anything with. And over here, we want to have animal corpses so that we can butcher them, but we don't want to keep the rotten ones. So, now we can wait, and when people get up in the morning, somebody should come by and haul these bodies out of here so we don't have to look at them. Now, as I recall, we're not really needing these weapons too much, but we do still want to get them picked up before they can deteriorate too much. The silver will be fine. Don't have to worry about that one. And this will get done, well, should have been taken care of automatically, but I didn't have auto rebuild turned on. So let's put the blueprint back down for that. So there we go. We're moving the bodies out of here. One other thing that we do need to do, we do not want this to be in the home area. Home area is important because when it comes to firefighting, it's not going to, the pawns don't care about any fires that aren't in the home area, which is a good thing, otherwise they'd be fighting fires all over the map. And those are the only areas that get cleaned. The second part's important because if this is dirty, they'll want to come over here and clean it. And the last thing that we want is for them to spend time cleaning around a whole bunch of rotting corpses. That's just a bad day for everybody. So, let's see how everyone is doing. You took several gunshots, but it looks like you're going to be okay. You lost a toe. I mean, you'll be okay. I'm sorry you lost a toe. And you got hit a couple of times, but you're going to be alright too. And then you're just fine. So Marshall's already rebuilding. That's good. That's back online. And here we go. That easy. It looks like, however, no one is cooking. Why is nobody cooking? I have no idea. Marshall, why are you not cooking? Marshall, Marshall. Cannot cook fine meals. What about simple meals? Will you cook a simple meal? It says that we have simple meals. But I don't see them. I mean, I should be seeing them. Where did they go? Well, I'll tell you what. If you say that we have simple meals, I'm going to trust that we have simple meals. And we'll just go with the flow. You're harvesting, that's good. You're researching, that's even better. I'd really like to give you guys some bed rest, but we just can't afford it right now. There's too much work to be done. So one of the things that we did need to look at is we do not want to build everything out of wood. Wood is bad for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's one of the weakest materials you can build out of. Not really great in case we get raided. And secondly, it burns. So we're going to start making stuff out of stone. Looks like we have access to slate, sandstone, and granite, which is already queued up here. Now, every type of stone does have a different hardness and a different set of hit points to it. If I'm remembering correctly, and I might not be, but granite is the hardest. I know that one for sure. After that, I believe it is limestone, sandstone, slate, and then marble. Now, marble is good for other reasons. If you're going to make sculptures, anything made out of marble gets a bonus to its beauty. It's just not very good to build actual structures out of. Unless it's floors. It makes floors pretty. Since we have 3 kinds of stone, though, we can start making furniture out of stone and replace the wooden furniture that we've already made. We can also do our floors in that and our walls. Since the walls are going to be required to take the most punishment in case we get a raid or something, we're going to want to use granite for our walls. After that, we have access to sandstone and slate. Since sandstone has the next highest amount of hit points, we'll use that for furniture. And since the slate is the lowest, we'll use that for flooring. We'll be able to make pathways and actual internal floors out of slate that will look nice, and the amount of hit points that it has won't actually matter. So what do we have now? We have 260 slate already. And I think that given we have a main thoroughfare right here, this is where we're going to start paving. So let's wait until we have about 400 slate, and that caps out. And then we'll set up a building project. In the meantime, we'll let them farm, we'll let them research, and it looks like we're almost due for a cotton harvest. That's good because that means that we can get a tailor bench up and running as well and start making us some clothes. It is the 7th of February, but we do have a permanent summer. We're far enough south for that. We don't need to worry about it too much, but clothing will wear out and it will need to be replaced. And according to this, we still need wood too. But we'll take care of that in a minute. The cotton's not even harvested yet, so we're not going to be making clothes right now anyway. How long are we keeping you guys again? Shuttle comes in 8 days. That's fine. In terms of house guests, you're some of the best that we've ever had. I mean, the last house guest we had tried to kill us. new quest. His friend is interested in learning about other cultures and wants to host for 19 days. Gray will not do any work. So, somebody wants to come and visit for a while. 19 days. They will not do any work, which means they're just going to be a drain on our food. Right now, however, we're doing pretty good on food. With a permanent summer, we don't have to worry about food stores. No, that's not good. A psychic drone. So that's going to get into people's heads. And it's going to give them a mood debuff as long as it's here. In this colony, I'm not too worried about it. We're doing pretty well. We should be fine. So anyway, Gray will not do any work. Gray will just be a drain on our resources. But we could get a new person. Element the computer. Quick sleeper and a nudist, which means that she's not going to sleep for very long, only like half the time that most people do. And being a nudist, having a permanent summer, we can let her run nude the entire time, and she will just be happy as a cloud. With an 11 in shooting and a 7 in intellectual, she would be a good choice. 35 years old is not too old. She should have no complications in health. She doesn't. This is a good quest. And even though Gray will not do any work, Gray should still be able to fight for us should we get raided. I say we do this. So, welcome to our little fledgling colony, Gray. Who are you? An archer. Well, if the only thing you can do is fight, that's good. However, you're an archer who's only carrying a knife. And that just doesn't make sense. So, oh, we can't even equip you? Well, that is just 7 different kinds of unfortunate. Well, in that case, pick a room, enjoy your stay. Because apparently that's all you're going to be doing. And we've got research done. We have batteries. All right, so before we build those, let's get to work on our next thing. What do we want to do? We're going to have batteries, so I'm not too worried about electricity now. Let's get to work on microelectronics. That is a big project, but it's a worthy one. Microelectronics will give us access to the high-tech research bench, which will let us do research faster. We can move one of these over and fit the other one in right there, because the research bench is 2x5. And it'll also give us access to a communications console. And that we can use to talk to any ships that happen to be in the area, which will all be traders of some kind. We don't really have a whole lot of silver right now, though. So that's something else we're going to need to work on, is we're going to need some kind of economy here. And generally there's 2 ways to go about that. If you have the resources, you can do sculpting. But in general, if you don't have marble, sculpting can be a decent occupation, but not generally a terrifically profitable one. The other one, which is a bit more risky but much more profitable, is drug production. Given that we have a permanent summer, we can grow year-round. We could start growing psychoid and turn that into drugs. They are extremely profitable, but there is always the chance that somebody could get into them and potentially get addicted. Still, though, in our current situation, I think that is the best option. So that's what we're going to do. Not going to bother setting that up yet. There's other research we have to do first. Before we can even think about that, we'll need to research drug production, and then we'll need to research the different kinds of drugs that we want to do. In our case, it'll be psychite refining. Since Wake Up is a good drug, and one that you can actually take in your colony, assuming that you don't abuse it, but that requires a material called neutroamine, and we can't make that. Go Juice is the same thing, just more potent, and that requires both psychite and neutroamine, so we can't do that. And then there's penoxysilene, which is very important. Penoxysilene will inoculate your colonists against most diseases, and that also requires neutroamine. Given that you can't find it or grow it or any other way to really obtain it except for buying it, that means that any neutroamine that you do get is probably going to go into penoxysilene production. Of course, there are mods to get around that, but we're trying to stay away from those this time around. Perhaps in a future colony we'll explore that. For now, let's just see how everyone is doing. You're playing horseshoes. Well, I hope you're enjoying the holy horseshoe pin. That one pin is keeping this entire colony afloat. And it looks like we do have 400 slate. So let's get some construction projects going. First things first, batteries. Now, where do we want to put them? Let's just put them down here out of the way. We'll start with 2. By the time we get geothermal up and running, we're probably not going to need batteries at all, because we do have the 1, 2, 3 geothermal generators, and each geothermal generator puts out somewhere in the area of, I believe, 3,200 watts. So between the 3 of them, that's almost 10k watts of power. Unless you're playing a heavily modded game, that is more power than almost any colony will use. And already we have a fire. Come on, guys. Now that is an event that can only trip when you have batteries. It's usually pretty rare, and because this colony is doomed from the start, it happened as soon as we built one. Unbelievable. Now, I'm going to dip into this mod. This one was not terribly intrusive, so I couldn't not get it. But because we're going to have an excess of food here, let's get us some storage. We'll make these food baskets to hold the rice, potatoes, and corn that we're growing. It's nothing too overpowered, nothing too broken. It just helps us clean things up. We are, however, going to need wood for that. We have oak trees and poplar trees around us. I do believe the oak trees give us more. So let's select those and harvest some wood. At the same time, let's see, for floors, we're probably going to keep the tile for inside the building, so we'll use the flagstone for outside. Let's select some flagstone, and we'll just pave this entire road right here. Now the reason it didn't up here is because this is mud and water. The terrain just will not support it. We could fix that later on. In our research, we can get a hold of moisture pumps, which will dry out the land and let us build there. I know it'll get rid of the mud. I think it'll get rid of the shallow water. Or alternately, we could just simply build bridges over it, which is probably what I'll end up doing. A little bit of wood is not a problem. A lot is. Fires can quickly get out of control. And this right here, this is just a tinderbox. We'll take care of it when we can. In the meantime, we get this done, and not only will it make the colony cleaner, and it'll make it look nicer, but having stone roads acts as a fire break. If a fire were to break out somewhere, say inside the farm, and we had it completely surrounded by roads, well, it's just like the roads around your house. It would help keep it contained. And how are you doing? You're greedy for an impressive bedroom. Well, I'm sorry, but you're not getting one. You're a visitor here. You're not making demands. And Marshall is already to work on getting the roads done. And making good progress at it, too. Alex back to research. However, this room is getting kind of disgusting. And when it comes to research, cleanliness is actually important. When doing research, the speed factor is a thing. So these simple benches are not very good to begin with, but the room cleanliness can bring it down even further. So let's make sure that we keep this room clean if we can. And getting this road built will help with that. Since they won't be walking on dirt before they walk into the room, it means that they won't be tracking that dirt in. And Lamp, what are you doing? You're still busy out here farming. And we are getting our first cotton. Now is when we should look at getting that bench up. Getting some cooking done, that's good. Could increase the number of meals that we have, but I don't really feel that's necessary since Gray's not going to be staying with us. The first road is almost done, and that did take almost all of the slate that we had. Fortunately, stone is usually a very prevalent resource. You don't need to worry about running out of it unless you're making a very large base in the end game. So everyone's back to bed. Everyone's moods look to be pretty high, even our visitor. We have a combat supplier coming in. There they are. Now, combat supplier gave us our light machine gun that was so very helpful in the last raid. We could see what they're packing this time. Who's our best negotiator? That was Alec. Okay, so Alec, when you have a moment, Go ask them what they've got. Well, we do have a couple of poor quality knives here. They're not going to sell for much. So I almost think it's not worth it. Once we have a... what do they call it? There's a bench that we can use that can melt down metal weapons. And I almost think that the steel we get out of that would be more worth the price we're getting out of these. We're keeping the plasteel knife. We're definitely keeping the auto pistol. And we just don't really have enough money to buy anything else. So unfortunately this time we're going to have to pass. Alec is back to work. Marshall's back to work cutting stone. And you're getting everything re-sewn, which is good. However, all of this sitting out here is deteriorating. Let's get all this pulled in before it disappears. We'll probably have to make a spot for the traders to come into, because I don't want them traipsing into these rooms and using these tables, because they're making a mess of the rooms. Lamp, clean your room. Marshall, clean your room. Alec, clean your room. And Gray, well, you don't clean, so you're just going to have to deal. You can't expect somebody else to clean your room. A meteor with silver ore. Now that could be useful. We need silver for trading, and it just fell from the sky. There's lots of ruins down here, too. We could deconstruct a lot of this. I really don't see much of a reason to keep any of it. It's a nice table, but it is made out of steel, and we can put steel to better uses. However, these two limestone tables we could absolutely use. So let's claim these. We'll claim both of these, and we're just going to move them back up here temporarily. So let's just put them right in there. Now that they're ours, we can repair them back into good condition, and we have a couple of extra tables. We could even go so far as to put some chairs along it, and we have a dining area inside the workshop. One thing we do have to do, though, is since we claimed them, technically this became home zone, and we don't want that. So let's clear that out right now. Cargo pods. What did you drop? Smoke leaf. Gotta be honest, not my favorite thing in the world. Smoke leaf joints are something that the colonists can do for recreation. However, when they're using smoke leaf, they get stoned. And that's not just me saying it, that's the actual name of the condition. Because he's going straight for it. And there it is. So when they're stoned, they take a minus 30% to their consciousness, minus 10% more to movement, and it makes them more hungry. I thought this should remind me of something. Doesn't come to mind, though. Anyway, though, because of all those debuffs, it makes them borderline useless until it wears off. 60% movement, manipulation, talking. They just can't do anything. And then there's always the chance of addiction. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the drug policies and we're going to set this up. We're not going to let them have smoke leaf or beer whenever they want it. Instead, we're going to tell them how often they can have it. And we're going to set some policies for everything else too. Raw rime nodules. I don't even know what this is. The sacs of a very strange plant, partly inorganic, that seems to extract propane from the surrounding land. Okay, that is something from the alpha biomes that we're never going to see here. Alright, so beer, we can let them have one a day. Smoke leaf, we can let them have one. Let's see, what's the addiction rate on this? I know it has one. Recreation, chemical, tolerance. There we go. Addiction chance, 2%. Rule of thumb is 1 day per percent plus 1. So 3 days. Ambrosia, I believe you're similar, 1 day or 1%. So we can have ambrosia every 2 days. Psychite tea is also 2%. So we'll let them have that every 3 days, and that's something that we can make once we get psychite production up and going. Wake up is also 2%, so we can let them have that every 3 days. And penoxysilene, as I said before, is a drug to inoculate your colonists against infections. And they have to take that every 5 days. The last one down here is luciferium, and we don't want them to take that ever. The game says that Lucy's nickname is the Devil's Bargain, because once you take it, you can't stop taking it. If you do stop taking it or you run out, you die. The plus side to that, however, is that Lucy can do amazing things. It can regenerate organ damage, it can fix scars, it can even bring youth back to the elderly, as long as you can afford to keep up with it. If we can get drug production online, and we do happen to come across a luciferium addict, or we have a colonist with something like an elderly condition or brain damage, we could then give them Lucy, and maybe we could even keep up with it. As it stands right now, however, I wouldn't even try. And I can hear construction. Oh, we're getting the tailoring bench online. So, now that we've got this, we can set up a few bills. First thing we're going to start with is recycling apparel. This will let us tear things down. Things that we either can't wear or don't want to wear. So, we're going to set 1 for anything tainted. Colonists do not want to wear clothing that people have died in. I can't imagine why. So now we can take it apart. This is not part of vanilla Rimworld, but it is a really good mod that I simply could not play without. The next thing is we're going to take apart anything that is poor quality or less, because I don't want my colonists to wear bad clothing. And then anything that has worn out. We're going to set the cap at 50%, because after that, clothing is considered tattered, and they'll complain about wearing it. So now that we got that, we'll make some mending kits, even though we don't have it researched yet. That'll come into play later. If we can get mending researched, we can get rid of this last recycle apparel, because we'll simply be able to fix clothing. And then we need to start making some clothing for ourselves. Everybody's going to need pants, and everyone's going to need shirts. We want to keep one on hand, and we only want to count things that are above 50% and of normal quality. Anything else will simply be recycled. Same thing goes here. And that'll take care of our basic clothing. Because we do have a permanent summer and it's going to get very, very hot during the summer, we're also going to want to make cowboy hats to keep the sun off and dusters to keep us cool. We're going to use the same guides that we did with the other clothing. And that's all of our clothing needs set up. Now we just need for someone to come and actually do it. And who is our best tailor? That's going to be Marshall. And that's sad because Marshall is already extremely busy. But you can't argue that Marshall does top-notch work. So Marshall's going to meditate for a while everyone else takes care of their recreation. Tomorrow we need to get all of this pulled in. Now that we've got wood, or at least we're starting to get wood, we'll get this food storage back online. Once we have enough stone, we'll put in some more roads to help us keep everything clean. I may install another mod that will give us access to things like trash bins that will help keep things clean. Otherwise, keeping everything clean is an absolute nightmare. But I'll have to think about that one. However, I can see that I'm already over time for today, at least for what I wanted to do. So with everything looking good right now, this seems a good place to stop. I am so pleased with how this colony is going. I am so glad to be sharing it with you. And until next time.